Hello my fellow miner, today we're going to have a look at how much drivers actually means in the latest version of trexminer. We're going to test 4 different drivers, have a look at overclock settings, the results, conclusion and profits, and also ask me anything which will be answered in the next video. Overclock settings. For the RTX 3050, lock the core clock to 900 and set the memory clock in HIVEOS to 1200 and 600 in Windows. Then disable LHR. Yes, you need to disable LHR. It is an LHR version 3 card and it is really bad. For the RTX 3060, lock the core clock to 1552, set the memory clock in HIVEOS to 2600 and in Windows to 1300. The card I'm using for test is a Zotac RTX 3060 Twin Edge LHR. Unlike its RTX 3070 Ti brother, this one is actually stable and quite good. For the RTX 3060 Ti Hynix Revision 1 memory, lock the core clock to 1350, set the memory clock in HIVEOS to 2100 and in Windows to 1050. The difference between a Revision 1 and a Revision 2 is that Revision 2 can clock to 3400 and above, while a Revision 1 can only clock to 2100 if you're really lucky. You may actually see that it's lower than that. The RTX 3060 Ti Hynix Revision 2, lock the core clock to 1500 and set the memory in HIVEOS to 3200 and 1600 in Windows. If you're unsure which one you have, then just try with memory clock at 2300 and if it crashes then you have a Hynix Revision 1. You could also have a Samsung one, in that case then you're super lucky. Enjoy. For the RTX 3070, lock your core clock to 1125 and set the memory in HIVEOS to 2600 and in Windows to 1300. It is the absolute most efficient card as always, and it is the go-to buy if you want to buy a new card. Buy an RTX 3070. For the RTX 3070 Ti, lock your core clock to 900 and set your memory clock to 2600 in HIVEOS and 1300 in Windows. If you're one of those that are lucky to have one that doesn't suck, then you should go 1150 on the core clock and as high as possible as you can on the memory. Mine is a Zotac and it is the worst of them all. For the RTX 3080 10 gigs, lock the core clock to 1250 and set the memory clock to 3400 in HIVEOS and 1700 in Windows. This is actually a pretty good card. It is quite stable, but the thermal pads have started to decay a bit, so I need to change them soon. If you have the RTX 3080 12 gigs, then I feel for you. But lock your core clock at 900 and set your memory clock in HIVEOS to 1200 and 600 in Windows. Remember to disable your LHR, as this card is using version 3. I highly recommend that you mine something else than Ethereum with this card. Check out my crypto mining videos with the daily profits. Setting up in HIVEOS is easy. All you need to do is actually just run it. In case you have the RTX 3050 and the RTX 3080 12 gigs, then you can disable it by setting LHR tune to 0 as seen here on the screen. If you use Windows, simply create a bash file based upon what you see here. And please remember to run it as admin. Results. Let's start with the mining screen. Yes, the obvious is there should be 4, but there's only 3. The reason for that is quite simple. I accidentally deleted the video. Or I renamed it wrongly or pasted it into the wrong folder. I really miss the good old Norton Commander days. No, not Norton Commander 95, but the good old DOS days. To be honest, there's not much to see here, as I have taken pretty much all the relevant data and now put it in one place where it's quite easy to see. I am of course talking about the maximum and minimum hash rate, the maximum and minimum power consumption, and LHR. Now let's start with the RTX 3050 LHR mining Ethereum. To the left you can see the different driver versions, and then we have a lot of very nice data. Looking at the minimum and max hash rate, there's not much to see actually. The same goes for the watts, while there is a bigger difference in core temperature, which most likely is due to me running the test on different times. If you have an RTX 3050, then the answer is quite simple. No, you will not gain anything from using a specific driver. But you should really consider mining something else than Ethereum, to be honest. Let's have a look at the RTX 3060 LHR mining Ethereum. Looking at average hash rates, it looks like HIVEOS is doing a little bit better, but that is within the margin of error. However, the LHR value is a bit lower than the rest, but apparently not enough to have a negative effect. I think it's safe to say that using the RTX 3060 LHR driver doesn't matter, as long as a 500 series driver, which is required by TRexminer. Let's have a look at the RTX 3060 Ti LHR Hynix reversion 1 mining Ethereum. This almost looks like a bad copy-paste job, but it's not. You can see that on the min-max LHR for HIVEOS. Again, more of the same. HIVEOS is a bit faster, well, within the margin of error, with a lower LHR value. The way to figure out if you have a Rev 1 or Rev 2 Hynix memory, simply clock to 2300 in HIVEOS or 1150 in Windows and see if it crashes. If it does, you have a revision 1. Of course, there is also the possibility that you have a Samsung graphic card, then in that case, congratulations. Now let's have a look at the RTX 3060 Ti LHR Hynix revision 2 mining Ethereum. Here we actually see a difference using Windows 10, driver version 512.59, game ready. As we can see in min-max megahash, it has actually fallen to 38.1 megahash, where the rest have been at above 50 megahash per second. To make sure this wasn't an error on my side, I actually checked the log file and it is true. It goes down to 38.1 many times, a couple of times per hour actually. So if you're using Windows and you game, then it's better to stay on 512.15, at least for mining. Now let's have a look at the RTX 3070 LHR mining Ethereum. The LHR value for HIVEOS is a bit lower, however the performance is a bit higher, which is the same picture we have pretty much seen throughout, with the exception of the RTX 3070 Ti Hynix revision 2. However, the difference is so small that it doesn't matter which driver you are using, and it doesn't matter which OS you are using. It's definitely not worth the downtime to switch over to HIVEOS from Windows if you are in Windows. Well, it is, but not for performance sake. Now let's have a look at the RTX 3070 Ti LHR mining Ethereum. Yes, I'm very well aware that mine is really bad, but that is just how it is. If you're running with the same poor settings as mine, then you can actually see that in this case HIVEOS and Windows 10 512.15 game ready drivers are the best. And again we see the 512.59 game ready driver underperform compared to the rest. Funny enough, there's a huge difference between min-max LHR when it comes to HIVEOS and Windows in this case. Now it's time to have a look at the RTX 3080 10 gigs LHR mining Ethereum. Here we see the min-max LHR value for HIVEOS is lower than Windows, yet the performance is better. This time the difference in LHR value is around 0.6 to 0.7 depending on which graphic card driver you compare it to. Yet the performance is still better in HIVEOS by a little. Yet again, it doesn't really matter which driver you run with in this case. Now let's have a look at the RTX 3080 12 gigs LHR mining Ethereum, where LHR has been disabled. There is not much to note here actually. The performance on all the Windows drivers are exactly the same when you look at the average hash rate. When you look at HIVEOS, it's the same picture we have seen throughout, where it is around 0.2 megahash per second faster in HIVEOS. So it's pretty safe to say that in this case, it doesn't matter which OS you're running on or which driver you're using, as long as it's in the 500 series, which is required by TRexminer. Conclusion and profits. Depending on which graphic card you have, you'll see absolutely no difference to a minor difference. It seems that currently only the RTX 3060 Ti Hynix revision 2 and the RTX 3070 Ti are affected by drivers, but not that much actually. It's not like a couple of months ago where we could see huge gains depending on which driver we choose to use. Going forward, I'll add an Ask Me Anything sections to my video. If you're interested, then drop a comment with a question and I will most likely ignore it. But some will be answered, like, what is your favorite color? Well, it is the color of cryptocurrency. Before we move on to the profits, I would very much appreciate it if you click like on the video, and if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. Thank you very much. And that is all for this time. Now the profits. I hope to see you in the next one. you.